What's going on, everybody? Noah here, back at you with the Rise Method. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the bell icon so you get notified when I'm posting, and also hit that subscribe button. And leave any comments or questions in the videos. I'll get back to you. I love to interact and to delve deeper into these ideas. And what we're going to be talking about today is, some might see it as a slight detour as to what we've been talking about in the past videos of reality creation, but as you'll see, this is crucial, and it's a crucial component of harnessing your creative energy. I talk namely here to men. Okay, this does apply to women as well. But in this video, I want to discuss the power and the primacy of harnessing your sexual energy, and what that looks like, and how a lot of men today are subject to carelessly expending their sexual energy and diverting their sexual energy to these short-term gratifications, where we are just constantly experiencing this temptation, let's say, to want to expend that energy, to want to ejaculate, to want to achieve this short-lived gratification, and that is draining us of our life force, of our creative life force. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about that, and then also provide just some simple practical tips and exercises to kind of help harness and control that energy and be a little bit more conscious overall. That's something else about sexual energy that I think is important, is that you typically see 1 to 2 sides of this. Either someone is being just so, what's the term here? Being so careless with their energy, being careless with their sexual energy, having casual random sex, on a daily, weekly basis, masturbating constantly, watching porn. And then you'll see people going to the flip side of that, of just chastising themselves and totally trying to harness, quote unquote, rather to bring it into, to bind it, to prevent it from ever being expressed physically through ejaculation. And, as human beings, right, we're these paradoxical dual creatures. So I think that while it is important, more important now than ever, to be more conscious of our energy and conserving and preserving and transmuting that energy for our creative purposes in life, okay, whether it be wanting to build a business, whether it be wanting to deepen your intimacy and relationships, you want to expand your finances, deepen your spiritual connection with a higher power. And most importantly, the most important part of this, and the most powerful component of sex transmutation, is being able to exponentially increase the power of your awareness, of your consciousness, because as we've discussed, your consciousness creates your reality. So when you can harness that creative life force and become one with it, become mindful with it, and just develop a more harmonious relationship with your sexual energy, it will accelerate your transformation, the transformation that you seek in any domain of your life, because this sexual energy is being expressed in all forms of your life. It's not just coming out in the carnal form of ejaculation, of being with somebody else and having sex, but sexual energy is creative energy as a whole. Whether you're creating something in your life, a piece of art, a piece of music, you're building a business, okay, that's the same creative energy. So what a lot of us experience nowadays, men and women, is just this constant sexual stimulation in social media, in advertising, everywhere you look. And why is that? Well, we discussed a few videos ago how we're at this place in human evolution where we're looking to, and we have this opportunity to become aware of how prone we can be to living in survival mode, because that's what we've been accustomed to And through the power of our awareness, through our consciousness, we can transmute that, okay, and shift from survival into thrival mode, living as a conscious creator, okay, being more intentional in our lives with what we want to create, how we want to show up, and having a vision for ourselves and just being more effortlessly able to achieve that and attain that, experience more love and more peace and more joy and bliss in our life. And so I bring that up because it's a similar position where the reason why it's so easy to become sexually overstimulated, the reason why it's so prevalent, why we're so prone to it, is from this primal programming. Okay, you hear this from a biological standpoint, right? That's the main purpose of, or the means by which evolution takes place from a biological standpoint is that organisms can live long enough to procreate, and then they can die, and then just propagate their genes. So it's a very deeply instantiated desire. It's a very deeply embedded pattern, you could say, that we do desire sex, of course. That's why it's so powerful. It's such a powerful energy, and something that with that power, okay, comes great responsibility. A responsibility to become more conscious, to become more intentional with it. And as it relates to wherever you're at in your journey currently, if you're watching this, you're at a place where you're looking for some sort of self-transformation. Okay, you're a very conscious individual, a conscious being. Probably have some inkling of this already. And so when we can harness that energy a little bit better and bring it back to ourselves, we can bring back our sexual energy. We afford ourselves more of that same energy to increase our self-awareness, to notice the patterns, the thoughts, and the beliefs that we've been identifying with for so long but no longer serve us. So then we can alchemize that to then begin focusing on what we do want to achieve, to harnessing our imagination, to creating that vision for ourselves and getting really clear on that. And then embodying that on a regular basis, embodying that transformation. So this isn't to say that you need to chastise yourself. Okay, some people are called to a monastic celibate lifestyle, and there are plenty of stories of people going into celibacy, and it's very powerful. And for those who hear that call, who heed that call, more power to you. However, as a human being, again, it's not necessarily about shoving it in or trying to keep it in, because that's a form of repression or resistance, you could say. That can just lead to stagnation and frustration. Okay, if you look at a lot of the sexual kung fu practices, like Taoist sexual kung fu of Mantak Chia is a great practitioner of this. He talks about the flow of sexual energy, the microcosmic orbit in the body. And so there's this continual flow of sexual energy, this giving and receiving, you could say. And so you can have sex, you can ejaculate, you can have that experience, sure, when it's in the context of a more intentional container. Because the premise of this, and where people can where they're losing their potency, is when it's mindless, is when it's thoughtless, and you're just subject to this sex energy just wanting to be expressed out in the world, just wanting to work on a level of the flesh. So what I'm talking about is being able to accept that, acknowledge that as a part of us, and it can be used for beautiful things, right? It can be used in a container to create, to build a family, to deepen relationships. All the while also remembering and recognizing the power that comes when we can transmute that energy up. You hear this, transmuting it up the spine, so to speak, transmuting it into more creative potential beyond just the physical plane, beyond just your body, but also into your business endeavors, okay, into relationships, platonic or romantic, deepening a sense of connection with God, life, source, with nature, improving or enhancing rather your artistic capabilities, okay, devoting that energy more to building something, creating something. It's just at a different plane of existence. It's just not something that's physically being expressed. So with all of that said, I mean, the crux of all of this, right, it returns to your consciousness, who you're being, your imagination. And so what I'm highlighting here is not to be totally subject to your base sexual energy. You can acknowledge it, develop a relationship with it, all the while knowing what comes, the power that comes from when you return that to yourself. Because something else about this, and this goes back to kind of how we're just overly stimulated in the world today with sexual content, another powerful element of this, a key element of this, is that you're rewiring your brain when you can desexualize your mind, so to speak. Because when you're always subject to wanting to ejaculate, to watch porn, okay, you're a slave to your senses, let's say. You're a slave to this external world. And so though you're not consciously or intentionally wanting to do this necessarily, you're affording the external world precedence over who you profess yourself to be. Let me say that again. When you are continually subject to wanting to express your semen, your ejaculation externally, okay, you are keeping yourself subject to this primal programming, to this survival-based state. Okay, it's just in the same way as if when you're constantly scrolling on social media, the same way when you're constantly wanting to eat fast food. It's this short-term gratification, this quick dopamine hit, and you're just desensitizing yourself to it time and time again, and you lose your vitality. You're slowly seeping away your vitality. Now, that can always be brought back. That's always afforded to you. Okay, I do believe that any human at any point in their life can make that change they seek, because you're not defined by who you were in the past. You're a new creation now by the transforming and the renewing of your mind. You just have to notice when you're being diverted, let's say, or being pulled, being subject to this carnal, survival-based form of sexual energy. Because again, we're human beings. That's one part of it. We're in this flesh. We have sexual desire, and you want to not reject that, but in fact embrace that and allow it to fill you up. Because that's what transmutation is, allowing it to fill you up so then you can use it for more productive, more expansive means. And when I talk about that, I'm namely relating it to a goal that you may have for yourself in your life. Relationships, building your business, increasing your revenue, feeling more energetic and having more health in your body, returning vitality to yourself. Okay. All that can be enhanced and accelerated when you can learn to transmute your sexual energy. When you can transmute changing the water into wine. If you don't know what that means, that's the first miracle performed by Christ in the Bible, the transmutation of water into wine. which from an esoteric perspective, it is this transmutation of this base sexual fluid of water into wine, the spirit, right? Wine is a spirit. So you're transmuting that base fluid into something spiritual. So you're harnessing, it helps you to harness the creative power of your mind to become a conscious creator. So I hope you can see the relevance of this conversation as it relates to self-transformation, as it relates to becoming a healthier, wealthier, more successful, more exuberant, more vital version of yourself. So with that, I want to give you just a simple breathing practice, that you can use as a man. I've mainly been talking to my fellas here, because I do believe that whereas women actually can get more excited through sex and engaging in sex, men have a certain refractory period of needing to recharge. So in that sense, it's a little more intentional. But so a breathing practice you can use when you're feeling this, if you're a man or a woman, when you're feeling this energy build up. You want to imagine and visualize that microcosmic orbit I was telling you about, which is basically just this orbit circulating from the genitals around the back, around the spine, back of the head, and then back down the front to the genitals, breathing in, and then breathing out. So as you breathe in, that energy rises up the spine, then exhaling, coming back down. Just tapping into your body and feeling that circulation of this energy up and down to move it, right? It doesn't need to be expressed physically, let's say. It doesn't need to be expressed through your semen, but it can be transferred and translated. And I also want to say that while so much benefit, so much value comes from desexualizing your mind in the world today, so you can focus and create a life that you really want to live. That isn't to say that if you are coming from a place of watching a lot of porn, being perhaps even addicted to porn, continually spilling your seed all the time, or you're a sex addict, not to have shame or guilt when those crop back up, or you find yourself wanting to lapse back into that, because the shame and the guilt around that would just reinforces that behavior again, because you use that behavior, watching porn, masturbating, having sex, and this applies with any kind of behavior of wanting to eat better. So you reinforce the behavior you're trying to change because you're shaming yourself that you did it again. So I do encourage that if you're in this practice wanting to be more intentional with it, and you ejaculate, you watch porn, have sex, that's not in a more sacred container. Be okay with that. Take a breath. Realize that you are a new creation in the now. You are not defined by who you once were. Even if that's 5 minutes ago, you are not defined by that. Have some grace in that, because that's what's going to allow you to actually make the change and keep the change going to where you naturally become that which you are desiring to be for yourself. And just remember that how powerful your sexual energy is and how valuable and vital and beautiful it is to life, right? It's your creative life force, so treat it with a little more honor. Breathe. Use your body. Use that energy and express it. Move through your body. Exercising. Going out in nature. Use that energy in a hobby that you enjoy. In creating music, in writing. You have a business idea. And instead of procrastinating, reverting to these old habits, and then just expending the energy and then get stuck in this cycle. Take a moment and have some gratitude for that desire. Gratitude that it's fueling you. And how just divine that really is. Because it is divine. It's a gift. It is a gift, and it is our life force energy. It's our life force energy. So that's what I wanted to talk with you today. Again, I know it may have seemed a little off course, but we brought it right back. I hope you gained some value from this. Please leave a comment below. If you have any questions or thoughts that came up during this video, I'd love to hear from you. Get back with you. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get reminded from when we make another post. Thank you so much for being here. I'm blessed to have you. Until next time, take care.